when I was leaving treatment, the gentleman that owned the facility told me that I should go to my union and tell them what I had done, because that's what an honest person does. And I was so vulnerable at this point and knew nothing about anything in healthcare and addiction. And so I listened because I just didn't know. I didn't know what else to do. And, they said it was the right thing. So I reported to my union. And that's when shit hit the fan. It was terrible. I had to see an addictions doctor to tell me I had a problem, which I knew I had a problem. Like I walked that path myself, and I sought help, and I went to treatment, and I got on the right path. I wouldn't say I got better, because the 6 weeks isn't enough to heal a lot, but it is definitely enough to kind of push you in the right direction to get going. And that's kind of when I got seen. They told me I had a substance use disorder. And then I got signed into this 3-year contract. And I think that answers your question.
And then some. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us your story, Cassidy.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, because I believe that these details are important, you decided to tell your union because you felt that you talked to this gentleman and come to the conclusion that it was the right thing to do. Were you planning on going back to work as a nurse right away, or were you going to take some time? Like I'm interested to know what you thought of yourself at that time before the powers that be interceded.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought I would go back and be a nurse. Like that was in my head. I didn't know when. I definitely didn't think I was going to leave treatment and go back to the bedside the next day. But it was definitely my plan, was to go back into bedside nursing.
But I mean, did you consider taking some time off to yourself to continue, healing from this process, or, what would that have looked like? Or do you know?
I don't know if I ever planned in my head to take some time off. I definitely probably, I don't remember the date, but I think there's a little bit of summer left. So I was probably going to take the summer off. I think it was like midway through July. I think it was July 15th when I signed the contract, actually, the 3-year contract. So I was probably in my head planning to take the rest of the summer off and then go back afterwards. But I can't honestly say for sure what was kind of going on at that time, because there was a lot going on at that time.
Yeah.
So how did that feel when all of a sudden you disclosed this to your union, and here comes the monitoring contract? I assume that your employer was informed in some way.
Yeah, my employer was informed. I essentially had a meeting with the union, and they said, you have to get an IME assessment done, and then you have to sign this and then once I had the IME, they showed you this contract, and then once the contract was signed, that contract has to go to your employer, and they need to be in the loop of what goes on as well. And it felt terrible. It felt awful. Like it felt like I just felt like I was already in such a vulnerable place, and then to be exposed to all these other people just felt like more vulnerable. Even though they don't disclose what you're doing, you still have it still feels like you're being exposed.
Yeah, the way those contracts are written up, basically they might as well state on there that you have no confidentiality, because once you sign, it's this physician and anybody this physician feels is going to be needing to see your records, or this agency, etc. And it just they don't actually define names that will be privy to your information. It's just groups of people, right?
Yeah.
And that can be pretty overwhelming when you're that raw. I mean, I don't know how, some people come back from treatment, and it sounds like you had a really good experience where you learned that maybe you had some things that you needed to work on that you weren't aware of, but you were still probably in a, like you said, very raw, vulnerable state of mind. And those types of, to me, I take them as it's a violation of your confidentiality. And that's the way I felt anyway. If they couldn't define who specifically was going to need my records, then I didn't think that should be legally binding or allowable.
Yeah.
Did it feel like it sort of popped a pin in all of the hard work you had just done? Like to have to go back to an addictions doctor and go through all this stuff when you'd just done a really successful therapeutic 6 weeks? Did it kind of pull the rug out from under you?
Yeah, 100% it did. I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through this program through the professional accountability meeting that we do. And I've never met somebody else that walked the same path as me, that self-admitted themselves into treatment and then also got sent to this 3-year program. It usually is kind of the other way around. People kind of get found out about and then are told they have to go to treatment and then kind of go through the monitoring contract. So I definitely felt when I was told and found out about all of this that the rug was pulled out under me, because I did feel like I had kind of taken a step forward, and not saying that I'm stronger than anybody else, whatever. My story is completely different. It's everyone walks their own journey, but I definitely felt like it was, all done for nothing. Like it was, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in. It doesn't matter that you tried to do this that you tried to get help like this. Here you go, you got to go into this box. This is your box and this is your 3-year plan. This is no ifs, ands, or buts. Your story doesn't matter is essentially how I felt when I walked out of it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Did they give you any credit, or was there any discussion about your previous treatment during your IME? Or did that just, did they say, were they digging? I asked the question because I'm interested in whether or not an IME physician would look at things that may have been beneficial. I mean, maybe you went to a treatment center and you say, you know what, this type of CBT therapy really helped me out with this specific problem. And that could then tailor where you're going. I mean, we know right now in reality, that's not how it happens, but was there any attempt to, kind of feel that out?
I mean, I don't particularly remember verbatim what happened in the IME assessment. The only thing that I can think of is my 3-year contract, which was the same as everybody else. I did not have a waiting period between going to treatment and starting work. My turnaround time was very short. A lot of people had to wait a very extended amount of time to go back when I was able to go back right away. I didn't have a waiting period. And then my 3-year contract also wasn't signed off to start when returning to work, where, as I know, a lot of people who get put in this 3-year contract, they have a waiting period before they go back to work. So some people wait a couple of years, and that 3-year contract doesn't start until they're back at work. So that 3-year contract actually turns into a 5 or 6-year contract. Whereas that box was never checked on my IME. So my 3-year contract started when I signed it. So those are the only two kind of points that I look at and be like, maybe there was something taken into consideration. But that was definitely never stated to me by the gentleman. And part of me is like, I think he just forgot to check that box. Like, I don't think it was like a pat on the shoulder. He definitely never said anything about being like, good job. I don't ever remember feeling good in that assessment. I remember feeling belittled and full of shame during that assessment, but I don't remember particulars.
And they didn't recommend that you go to another treatment center though, did they?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, at least it wasn't that crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've heard very terrible things about some of the treatment places that they like to send people. And I had a good treatment experience. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I know that's not the same for everybody.
Do you mind telling, was it one that was in BC?
Yeah, it was on the island. It was Cedars treatment facility. Yeah, just outside. I believe it's outside of Duncan or in Duncan.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know a lot about that one, but
I've heard very good things though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
little good things.
Yeah, little cabins in the wood. You had walks after and before meal, so you're outside, which I know other treatment facilities just don't even have that option. And yeah, when I was there, it was really good. I'm not sure it's still the same. I would like to hope so, but my experience, I even went back there a couple of times afterwards for like alum meetings because I missed it. I've been there in a very long time, but yeah, I did go back.